In today's video, I'm gonna talk about the backstory of Master Shifu in Kung Fu Panda, so let's get started. It's well known that Shifu left his family to fully commit himself to the ways of Kung Fu. However, in Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness, Shifu shared a different story. He revealed that he and his father used to travel to different villages selling fake amulets when he was just a kid. One day, his father dropped him off at the Jade Palace, promising to be back in 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes turned into hours, and eventually, Master Ogway stumbled upon him and took him under his wing, making him a student at the Jade Palace. Under Ogway's guidance, Shifu trained alongside the former Furious Five, which included Feng Wang the Owl, Rooster, Elephant, and Snow Leopard. Eventually, it's assumed that the group disbanded and went their separate ways after Feng Wang turned to the dark side and fled following a failed attempt to defeat Ogway. After attaining mastery in Kung Fu, Shifu found himself drowning in a sea of new responsibilities. The pressure became so overwhelming that he felt internally off-kilter, or as he put it, trapped in transition. In a moment of frustration, he even ended up getting pummeled by a dummy on a rope. The stress eventually reached a breaking point for Shifu, leading him to contemplate quitting Kung Fu altogether and returning to his old life. But just as he was about to throw in the towel, Ogway intervened. Instead of letting Shifu give up, Ogway patiently introduced him to Hing Kung, a discipline focused on finding balance. Through rigorous training, Shifu learned a valuable lesson. True balance isn't about letting the weight of the world overwhelm you. It's about finding inner peace and taking control of your own destiny. With this newfound wisdom, Shifu went on to become a master in teaching this discipline to his future students. After reaching mastery in Kung Fu, Shifu's life took an unexpected turn when he heard the cries of a baby outside the palace gates. There, he found an abandoned snow leopard cub wrapped in swaddling cloth. Without hesitation, Shifu took the cub in and named him Tai Lung, raising him as his own son and serving as both father and teacher. Under Shifu's guidance, Tai Lung received rigorous Kung Fu training. Impressed by Tai Lung's natural talent and skill, Shifu began to believe that Tai Lung was destined to be the legendary dragon warrior. He constantly praised Tai Lung's abilities, unknowingly feeding into the young leopard's growing sense of pride. Years later, Shifu proudly presented Tai Lung to Master Ogway for judgment, fully expecting him to be chosen as the dragon warrior. However, Ogway's verdict shattered their hopes. Despite Tai Lung's impressive skills, Ogway sensed darkness within him and declared that he could never be the dragon warrior, leaving both Shifu and Tai Lung devastated. Filled with rage and feeling abandoned by Shifu's silence, Tai Lung unleashed his fury upon the Valley of Peace, wreaking havoc and causing chaos among its inhabitants. His rampage led him back to the Jade Palace, where he sought to seize the Dragon Scroll by any means necessary. Despite Shifu's attempts to intervene and confront Tai Lung, he found himself unable to strike a decisive blow against the son he had raised and cared for. In a critical moment of hesitation, Tai Lung seized the opportunity to deliver a devastating blow to Shifu's hip, incapacitating him. As Tai Lung lunged towards the Dragon Scroll, Master Ogway intervened, immobilizing him with paralyzing strikes before he could lay his hands on the coveted artifact. With a shattered hip and a heavy heart, Shifu followed Ogway's instructions and supervised the building of Korgam Prison in the icy lands of Mongolia. The sole purpose of this prison was to hold one inmate, Tai Lung. For 20 long years, Tai Lung served his sentence for his destructive actions in the Valley of Peace. Bitter and filled with sorrow, Shifu entrusted Tai Lung's supervision to Commander Vashir and the Anvil of Heaven, vowing not to see his former pupil again until 2 decades had passed. The origins of the Furious Five remain shrouded in mystery, except for Tigress, whose story is known. Shifu encountered her as a child, brought in by the matron of the Bao Jiu orphanage to help her manage her fiery temper and immense strength. Using domino tiles as a training tool, Shifu worked tirelessly to harness Tigress's untamed power, teaching her the importance of grace and control. After much effort, Tigress mastered her abilities, gaining the skills needed to interact safely with the other orphans. Despite her progress, the adults remained wary of her, refusing to adopt her on adoption day. Disheartened but undeterred, Tigress's spirits were lifted when Shifu returned at day's end, whisking her away to the Jade Palace to begin her training in the tiger style of Kung Fu. Determined not to repeat the same errors he made with Tai Lum, Shifu adopted a distant and reserved approach with his students. He pushed them relentlessly, subjecting them to grueling training sessions in the newly renovated training hall, the toughest one yet. His aloof demeanor particularly affected Tigress, who yearned for his validation and pushed herself to earn it by taking on the role of unofficial leader among the Furious Five. Despite Shifu's distant demeanor, Tigress never forgot the love and care he showed her as her master and adoptive father. She continues to admire him and look up to him, striving to meet his expectations even as he keeps his distance. Shifu kept a close eye on Tigress's training, but he couldn't shake his disappointment when she couldn't mimic his own kung fu style. Despite Ogwe's attempts to reason with him, Shifu couldn't let go of the idea that Tigress should be just like him. During one training session, they were interrupted by Master Mongrel, who warned them about an approaching threat: Boar, a formidable villain defeating kung fu masters left and right. Shifu geared up to confront Boar, but his plans were derailed when he fell ill from a bad batch of noodles from Mr. Ping's noodle shop. Unable to fight, Shifu reluctantly sent Tigress on a mission to recruit 4 warriors to take on Boar. Just as she was about to leave, Mantis arrived to provide Shifu with much-needed medical care through acupuncture. In a twist of fate, Tigress ended up recruiting 4 individuals different from the ones Shifu had instructed her to find: Crane, known as the Cleaner; Monkey, dubbed the Comedian; Viper, recognized as the Dancer; and Mantis, nicknamed the Doctor. Disappointed by this unexpected turn of events, Shifu deemed Tigress's efforts a failure and considered the 4 newcomers unworthy of defending the valley. However, Shifu's illness rendered him unable to confront Boar himself or to intervene when Tigress and the others took matters into their own hands. Much to his surprise, the unlikely team of heroes managed to defeat Boar and save the Valley of Peace. Cured of his illness by Ogwe, Shifu realized the error of his ways and began assisting Tigress in developing her own unique style of Kung Fu. He welcomed Crane, Monkey, Viper, and Mantis as his new pupils, forming the Furious Five and setting the stage for new adventures. And that's the video of the backstory and journey of Master Shifu in Kung Fu Panda. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to my channel, it really helps a lot.